Hi, welcome into the lesson. Today we are going to talk about technique for playing marching snare drum. For marching drums, as with many instruments, there's more than one technique. So today I'm going to talk about probably the most common technique, certainly the most common techniques used on high tension snare drums like we've got here. So we're going to start off with the right hand. When I hold my sticks like this, you'll see that the right hand and the left hand do different things. So the right hand's the easiest one to learn. When you see people playing drum kit, for instance, often they play with both hands the same. That's called match grip. So this guy here is playing with match grip. If you put your hand in front of you like this, bend your wrist like this, it bends nice and easy. So we're going to hold the stick with the hand in that position to begin with, all right? So all we do, just grab it. We put our thumb next to our finger. If I hold the stick up like this and I was to put a pin through my thumb, it should go through there and through my finger, right? So you don't want your finger up higher, you don't want your finger below it, you want it so that you're making a nice little pivot point here. Now in drums we call the pivot point the fulcrum, right? So the fulcrum is where the stick's going to be allowed to move and to pivot. So this part here is going to be in constant contact with the stick, whereas the rest can come off if we want it to. Now this first finger here, if you look from the front angle, is kind of going to make a bit of a hook. It's kind of like we're putting the stick on top of our finger like this and letting it roll around there and then holding it in place with the thumb. So all of that section of the hand there, the front, the thumb and that first finger is the fulcrum. So hand out in front of you, hold the stick, put it above the drum. So all we're going to do now is just copy me, bring your hand up into the air like this, upside down fully, and I'm going to let go with these back three fingers. I'm going to still hold the front two and the stick's going to flop down like this. Now the pads of my fingers now, these guys, just touching the stick, and I'm going to use those pads now to pull the stick downwards. Now you can hopefully see the fulcrum there is where the stick's pivoting here. The fingers are moving the stick. So in drumming we do use a little bit of the wrist, but we also use quite a lot of the fingers. Now we make a combination of those two pivot points to make our full stroke. Now if I had a basketball and I threw it on the floor now, it would bounce back up. We've got a similar thing on a drum. We want to imagine that's the basketball and we're throwing it and we're going to let it bounce back up. We don't want to get the basketball, pick it up, bend down, tap it on the floor, stand up and bring it back up. So we don't want to hit the drum and bring it back up. We want the stick to rebound off the drum. So what we're trying to do now is start with the stick up in the air like this and have a go at seeing if you can just get the stick to bounce off the drum like this. So my fingers are in constant contact with it, but only because over years really of practice, I'm able to know exactly what speed I've got to open my fingers back up to stay in line with the stick when it rebounds. Now with this particular technique then, you're going to see if you search through YouTube or you have lessons that there's more than one way of holding this right hand. This is called German technique. So when our hands are in this position, it's German technique. When I bring my thumb on top like this, in fact, I can bring it right the way across my body if I want, but if I do it here, when my thumb's facing upwards now, my palm's facing outwards, that's called French technique. Legitimate technique still, just different. And then halfway between the two, we get something called American technique. So German, American, French. German, American, French. You could choose whichever one you like the most. So take a moment now and just try them out. Try some German. American and French. In a marching drum line, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make more than one person, often 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people look exactly the same. So technique is really important to the actual person that's teaching the line. Now it may be that certain lines will want everyone to be in the German technique and some will want this technique and this technique. There isn't necessarily one that's better or worse than the other. I suggest that when you're first learning, German's the easiest because it's naturally the way the wrist bends anyway. Right, left hand then. So what we're going to talk about with the left hand is something called traditional technique. So when we have two hands playing the same thing, it's called match grip. When the left hand starts to hold like this, it's traditional. Now if we went back quite a long time, when people very first started playing drums, the drums used to be on a sling, which meant that the drum was on an angle like this. Now if I was holding it with my right hand here, it's fine. With my left hand, what happens is, imagine the drum's coming up here now like this. I have to do this with my arm to be able to play the drum. that aches quite a lot after doing it for a long time. So all people thought was, they thought, well, I wonder if I put my hand underneath. Oh look, I can hold it like that instead. Now if we do exactly the same technique, it doesn't quite work, does it? So the technique was adapted for marching drums on the side, and that's where the traditional grip comes from. Now as you can see, ironically, I play with a flat snare drum now, which isn't actually how this technique's designed for at all, but it's become fashionable and the norm now to have flat snare drums within certain people, certain genres, I should say. So there are still some people that play with drums on a tilt, but for me personally, I prefer it when it's nice and flat. So let's talk about this technique then. If you hold your left hand in front of you like this, and we slot the stick in here, we've got to pinch a little bit with our thumb, because we want to keep that angle there like that. If I don't pinch my thumb, that happens. So I'm trying to just hold that stick in that position. Right, now we are now going to take our ring finger and our little finger, and we're going to put them under the stick. Now where your cuticle joins your finger, where your nail comes out of your finger, right here, the stick's going to sit right on top of that. And this little guy here, the little finger, is going to act a bit like scaffolding to try and hold that in place. So what you end up getting then is you get the ring finger is taking a little bit of the strain of the stick, so that thumb doesn't have to squeeze quite as much. Then the top two fingers, well, they go on top of the stick. Now you can see that my bottom of my thumb and the top of this finger here are actually in contact, and we get this nice kind of curved motion here. Now the biggest mistake most people make when they first learn this technique is here now, I've got space that I could fit, say, a golf ball or a table tennis ball or something like that. Now that, if I think about my hand was in this position, if I do this, it's still able to stay in that position. What most drummers accidentally do when they first learn this is they squash that area out, so they end up doing this. Now I can't fit a golf ball in there, so I want you to try and imagine taking a golf ball and placing it in that area there, in your palm of your hand, so you keep that stick up. Now the only way to do that is to get a bit of strength in that ring finger to hold it up. So if we go back to holding it like this then, first of all, we've got two bones in this arm, but when they twist around each other, allow the stick to do this. And that's how we play. If I don't even use my fingers, if I just literally use my thumb and the turning of my bones in here, so that's the first thing I want you to try. Throw the stick down, it'll bounce back, throw it down. So we're using our thumb on this hand the same way as we used our fingers when we play match grip. Eventually, you'll get the strength in your thumb that you don't even have to move your arm if you didn't want to. I would advise you probably do, apart from playing really fast and slow, fast and low even. And then what we then do is these first two fingers here, well, they help out because they also move the stick. And what a lot of drum lines do these days is they use those first two fingers a bit like a pear to push down with both of those. So that would do it like this. Now then we got to think about, do the sticks stay in contact with the stick the whole time, or do they come off loose? Now this again goes back to the marching idea of making lots of people look the same. It's easier if I say to everyone, right, your stick, your fingers must never leave them. So I teach everyone to hold it exactly the same, and then they just move their arms. And that way then everyone looks the same because there's no discrepancies. But I would say that if you break it down, it's probably more efficient to let it go a little bit loose, and maybe the stick leaves the fingers occasionally. So everyone relaxes. The problem with that is then I might get 10 people who all look a little bit different. And so you've got to weigh up sometimes being stiff and everything very staccato but looking the same, or being loose, relaxed, maybe being able to play a little bit faster, or certainly without as much stress or as much effort. But you've got to weigh up the fact that it doesn't look as the same. It doesn't look the same as uniform. So what we're going to do is, what I want you to do at the moment is not get too caught up in that. I just want you to be relaxed. So what you want to think about with that left hand is this thumb is basically coming over and hitting the drum. The stick happens to be there. We're twisting that arm slightly. Do I move here? A little bit, but at the moment I wouldn't even worry about that. You don't need to do that to move this arm very much. And then what I do is I'd start to play the first exercise that every drummer always plays in the marching drum line, which is 8 with this hand, followed by 8 with this hand. Now we're going to try and play it with what we call full turn. So we're going to try and bring the sticks all the way back to here. But before we do this, you need to quickly know one last thing: set position. So in the drum line, we want everyone to look the same. We have a position that we stand in, before, ready to play. Right, so set position for most marching drummers is just this. Now, it might be that we say a centimetre off the drum. Another drummer might go an inch off the drum. Some might want to hold their sticks like this, right? But most of the time, it's going to be about half an inch, a couple of centimetres off the drum like this, in a relaxed position. That way, then I can play quiet if I want to come in and play something quiet, or I can lift up and play loud. Now, when we play the eights, then, when my right hand's playing its 8, the left hand wants to stay in that set position. When my left hand plays its 8, the right hand needs to be back in that set position. So I'll play it, join in. And as simple as that exercise seems, that exercise will teach you everything you need to know about getting those sticks moving. The only thing is, you're going to pay a bit of a price here. You need to do that hundreds, thousands of times. Once you've got that basic motion down, doing the right hand and the left hand, the other things that you might do is you might play it quiet. Obviously faster. Or we might also do what we call crescendo, so getting louder, or decrescendos, getting quieter. And so that's the basics of marching technique for high tension snare drum. If you've enjoyed this lesson, please check out the other lessons. Leave me some comments, maybe subscribe, hit the little bell notification. Check back soon. Thanks for watching. See you again.